Hello, my dudes, and welcome back to another wonderful Friday. That's right, this is the last thing we do today, and the week is done. I do want to go through the Act 5 sheet with you. I'm going to go through those questions right now, so if I look down frequently, I'm just looking at those so I can communicate that information to you. I hope you liked this play. I personally think it's a pretty good one, even though I'm not really a big Shakespeare fan. I really like this play. So let us continue. When we think about the first thing that's really important in Act 5, I like to think about um, the irony of Lady Macbeth and kind of why she's sleepwalking and what she's doing. Well, what is she doing? She's washing her hands. Not really washing her hands, but kind of like scrubbing her hands in her sleep because she's trying to get the blood off of it. Now, that's incredibly ironic because earlier in the story, she was the one kind of calling out Macbeth, calling him a woman. She even said, "Are you a man? And are you strong enough to be able to do the deeds that we have done? I'm not worried. A little bit of water will wash away the sins from us. It'll wash away our oh, what was the line? I believe it was, it'll wash us free of this deed." And she, in all actuality, is equally as guilty as Macbeth, and she claims that guilt. She said that our guilt is the same, but she really holds on and she's racked with it, and that comes out in her sleep, and that's why she's scrubbing her hands. The next question we have is kind of to analyze that phrase of now does he feel his title hang loose about him like a giant's robes upon a dwarvish thief? And this is being spoken about Macbeth. This is when kind of Meneth and Angus and who's the other one? I can't remember. Caithness, I believe, are all talking to each other, and they're kind of making fun of Macbeth and saying he's quickly found out that he is not ready to fill the shoes or to fill the robe of the king before him, King Duncan. He's not a good king. He's a tyrant, and he's not a good leader. Now, what does Macbeth say he should have in old age versus what he got? Now, this one I can imagine maybe we struggled to find, but Macbeth is saying in his old age that he should have friends, family, love, fortune, all of these things that we often say, man, when I look back, I want to have a family who loved me or have some experiences that were good. But instead, he says, all I've got is this curse that hangs upon my head that I will be killed. That Banquo, his family will be kings and mine won't. And all my life is filled with sadness and despair. And then 4 is you just have to copy down the lines which reveal the prophecy of the Burnham Woods that come true. Now, obviously, this is the scene where Malcolm is ordering his soldiers to cut down boughs of trees and carry them out in front of them. This is how the Burnham Woods moves to Dursinine. So this is when all of the soldiers are carrying big trees out in front of them, and that's what makes it look like the woods are moving. This is to camouflage their approach and kind of hide their movements so they can maybe get the jump on Macbeth and his troops. And then finally, what happens to Lady Macbeth, and what can we infer and learn about this important character's kind of inauspicious or insignificant death? Well, we find out that she kills herself, and we find this in a couple of ways. We can kind of infer when Satan and Macbeth are talking, and especially in the video, Satan comes with blood on his hands, which makes us think that maybe this wasn't so natural. However, we for sure find out when the king says that the queen seems to have gotten rid of herself through vile hands, and those hands are her own. And this is kind of interesting because this, especially at the end of the play, for the king to say this, and Lady Macbeth is an incredibly important character. She is the catalyst that sets this entire conflict into motion. Well, this is incredibly important because it's all just the futility of life. Her death is meaningless to the people that don't like her. And she has established a kingdom of people who don't like her. And so she has become as insignificant as her own death. Now, finally, I need you to explain 2 examples of figurative language in the tomorrow soliloquy. As long as you find a couple of things there, that's fine. Repetition, assonance, consonants, things like that. Any internal or end rhyme that you see present, those sort of things. Just do your best to identify them. And then finally, when Macduff meets, not finally, we're only about almost to the end. When Macduff meets Macbeth in combat, how does the second prophecy come true? Well, this is the scene where Macduff drops the bomb that he was untimely ripped from his mother's womb, which is also how I'm going to tell people that I was removed via C-section, because that is hilarious, right? That's how we find out that Macduff is able to kill Macbeth. And then to whom does Macduff present Macbeth's head to? Why is this ironic? Now, the irony of this is a little more subtle, but also incredibly forward. He presents his head to all of the Thanes of Scotland and to Malcolm, who is the King of Scotland. And Macduff says, "Hail, King of Scotland." And then everyone else who is present says, "Hail, King of Scotland," while presenting the head to Malcolm. Now, this is exactly how the witches introduce themselves to Macbeth in Act 1. The witches say, "Hail, Thane of Glamis, hail, Thane of Cawdor, hail, King of Scotland." And yes, everybody finally cheered "Hail, King of Scotland" in Macbeth's presence, once he was dead, and to the rightful king, Malcolm. And then, how many deaths were there in the play? Well, there's about 10 of them. If we start with the general of the Norwegian army, and then the Thane of Cawdor when he's executed, and then the really important ones, and there's a couple others I'm sure, but the really important ones, there's King Duncan, there's both of his guards, Banquo, Macduff's son, Lady Macduff, young Seward, Macbeth himself. So these are very important deaths throughout the novel. And then we also, of course, have Lady Macbeth when she kills herself, so we need to make sure we have that one. And then, what are 3 people from literature or real life that remind you of Macbeth or Lady Macbeth? Now, I chose a couple people from real life. I always am reminded of Napoleon, who needed more and more and more, and it was because of that was his inevitable downfall. And then when he was finally exiled and then came back, it was his downfall a second time, is this constant greed and need to kind of rule all of Europe. And then I also like to think of Richard Nixon, kind of his paranoia and his, for a long time, unchecked kind of drive, his unchecked greed, and that motivation was part of his downfall. That's part of how he got caught. And then finally, a fictional character for all of you, Emperor Palpatine. It was his greed and his kind of arrogant attitude that came from the power that he acquired that led to his downfall when Darth Vader killed him, and with the help of Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi. So I hope you all have an amazing weekend. I hope this is all very useful for you. But we are not done for today. If you're an honor student, you'll notice that you have a common lit assignment to do. And for all of you general students, we have the Macbeth project that is posted on Classroom for you to view and start working on. Just go through, read those requirements, and really kind of see what needs to be done there. Obviously, I'll be posting some examples on Monday from the regionalism project, because that is the level of quality. We just have a few more things to juggle that I'm looking for. And we also, of course, have the writing example, which I will also have for you. So get started, kind of start mapping out what you think you want to do today. I'll give you a bunch of days next week to get working. And then before I go, I do need you to remind you that on next Thursday, Miss Bastian and Miss Sullivan are going to be here in person for all my in-person folks. But for you virtual students, what that means for you is you need to provide proof of college applications and FAFSA applications. So if you can forward your college application confirmation and your FAFSA confirmation to Miss Bastian, that would be absolutely wonderful. I'll be reminding you that over the next couple of days as well. Have an amazing weekend. If the weather stays as nice as it was today, please, please, please take advantage of it, and I'll see you all very soon. Have a good one, everybody.